Good morning. Sitting here getting ready for a busy weekend, and it's been a busy few years, few decades, but a lot going on this weekend. And hope you'll be in church, be in a Sunday school class. That first thing on Sunday morning, getting your children, getting your family all in a Sunday school class where they have a smaller group of some fellowship, hopefully some food. I think Baptists and food go together as much as Baptists and offerings. But be in Sunday school tomorrow morning. Be at Soul Winning 9:45. And I challenged last Sunday. I challenged people to get a tract, and everybody in the church at least pass out one gospel tract. And I want to see how many people could do that. And we want to see how many. Just because there's people they'll never answer their door. There's people that work too many hours, or they're in gated communities. That you meet them in the parking lot at the grocery store, you meet them at the pet supply place or whatever, and get them that tract and get them an invitation. Now, if you can witness to them, fine, but if you at least get the piece of paper in their hands, that's a great start. Junior camp was this week, Monday to Wednesday, and it was a great camp. And then this Monday, teen camp starts out. Our teenagers they're going up to Big Bear, be there Monday to Friday. If you'd pray for them, I'd appreciate it. We have so many young people, big decisions being made. Some young people who've finished college, some who've just finished high school, some who've got a little college and they're not sure what to do next. But if you'd pray, the world's dying and going to hell. And my big prayer is that God would call some of our young people, give them that passion, give them that fervor. When my wife and I packed up to come to California, it was God that motivated us. What would motivate someone with no money and no experience and no background to just go to a place he's never been and start a church? It was crazy. I look back thinking, what was I thinking? But it was God. And we need God to move in the hearts of some young people. And so I hope you'll pray for this week at camp. And then Tuesday, I have my knee surgery. So I'll be at camp Monday. I get to preach twice on Monday, and then I'm out of camp. And I'll be out of commission for a little while. One of my good friends, Pastor Mike Ray up in Napa, he said he had his knee replacement surgery, never missed church. He was right up in 3 days later or 4 days later, he was in church and preaching. And I thought, I don't know about that. And he said, well, I don't know what I said. And I was on drugs so much I should not have done it, but I did it. But my experience from my right knee was I'm going to miss a couple of services. And then we'll see with the left knee. There's no telling. The doctor said don't expect them both to be the same. But if you'd pray, I appreciate it. If you've got little ones in your house, children, get them to pray. I believe in the prayers of little kids, and I'm not worried about any of it. But if you get them to pray for our surgery and then for the rehab, that I would quickly get back up and running. It's too much to do. And some of you that are older, you know what I'm feeling. There's too much to do to be sitting around not able to get anything done because this old body of ours is wearing out. But it's a reality. This old body of ours is wearing out. I wanted to read you a word or two about the song Rock of Ages. And this is a great story. Augustus Toplady. And I could see how a man who was brought up as a boy named Augustus Toplady, I could see he could be a bare-knuckle boxer or something. I have no idea. But I want to read you a word or two about it, and I could get into the doctrine here, but let me just read a word or two. Most hymns were written out of some deep personal need or experience. This hymn was born out of a spirit of passionate controversy. Augustus Toplady was converted to Christ as a boy of 16 years of age while visiting in Ireland. Of his conversion, Toplady wrote, "Strange that I, who had so long sat under the means of grace in England." So he'd been in church, he'd been around the preaching of the gospel, "that I should be brought right with God in an obscure part of Ireland amidst a handful of people met together in a barn, and by the ministry of one who could hardly spell his own name. Surely it was the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous." And then he goes back to this is the author, Osbeck, writing about these different hymns. For a time, Toplady was attracted to the ministry of John and Charles Wesley, the Methodists. As time went on, however, he became a strong follower of the election doctrines of John Calvin and was vehemently opposed to the Arminian views promoted by the Wesleys and their supporters. Now, the big difference there is the Calvinists said God chose some for salvation and some for not to be saved or to go to hell. The Arminian view is that it's all up to man, and that men make the decisions whether to be saved or not, whether to do right or not. And there's some verses that kind of blur a little bit in a lot of things in life. I recently, a couple of the morning moments I've pre-recorded that will be when I'm the week of my surgery. I dealt a little bit with sovereignty, and I heard someone say I'm an Arminian, meaning free will, until I get to the cross. And then once I get saved, I'm a Calvinist, that God has our plans, our life ordered and stuff. But I'm not an Arminian or a Calvinist. I'm a Bible believer. And certainly there's a lot of God drawing us. Jesus said, no man can come unto me except the Father draw him. But there's hundreds of references that teach us that God allows us to choose. And he told us not to worry. Fret not, fear not, all those. Well, that means we can or we can't. It's up to us. Many references like that. And then prayer. What's the point of prayer if God's already got everything ordained? Why pray? There's so many references where God's mind is literally changed, like by Moses. God said, let me alone, that my wrath may wax hot. And Moses said, nah, God, and don't be doing that, and blah, blah, blah. This is what's going to happen. And so I'm not an Arminian nor a Calvinist. I'm a Bible believer, and the scriptures fit in. But it's interesting. These are great men. The Wesleys were great men. And John Calvin, other than the fact that he killed some Christians, he was a great man coming out of Catholicism. But anyway, it says, by means of public debates, pamphlets, and sermons, Toplady and the Wesleys carried on theological warfare. The following are several of their recorded statements. Toplady, this would be like texts, only it's public things. Toplady, I believe John Wesley to be the most rancorous hater of the gospel system that ever appeared in this island. Wesley is guilty of satanic shamelessness, of uniting the sophistry of a Jesuit and the authority of a pope. That's Toplady, who believes in, who ended up believing in a strong providential moving of God, that God was sovereign and he controlled events. Well, Wesley, the one who was more free will, he responded, I dare not speak of the deep things of God in the spirit of a prize fighter or a stage player, and I do not fight with chimney sweeps. And so here he called Augustus Toplady a chimney sweep. And these guys, you know what I love about this is great Christians have differed throughout the ages, and sometimes they're just not very nice. And get over this nonsense in our culture that if someone's not nice, they're not a good person. If someone doesn't just look at life like you, or someone doesn't tolerate look, I'm not going to tolerate your moral depravity and calling it decency. I'm not going to tolerate a drunkard saying there's nothing wrong with liquor. I'm not going to tolerate a person who's a sodomite. Now, I'm not going to go beat them up, but I'm not going to sit around and let them say my lifestyle is of God. God made me this way. That's junk. That's stupid, and it's a ridiculous statement. I don't have to pretend like those are true statements, or well, everybody's got their own opinion. Yeah, I'm right and you're wrong. We got two opinions here. I'm the right one, you're the wrong one in many areas. But anyway, I just think it's neat. Great Christians can differ. Toplady published this text in the Gospel magazine as a climax to an article attempting to prove his argument that even as England could not pay her national debt, can you imagine a country with her national debt, so man, through his own efforts, could never satisfy the eternal justice of a holy God. What a great statement. Using the illustration of national debt, there's so much in there, but Rock of Ages, cleft for me. What a great, great story. There's lots more to that, but I won't take time to deal with it. Get a hymnal. Love the hymns. Read the hymns. Take time to put these hymns, these old hymns, get them in your heart. Music touches the soul and lyrics touch the mind. Put the blending of harmony and melody with the intellect of spiritual lyrics, and you get something that'll touch the mind and the soul and keep us near to God. I want to read a quick verse or two here in 2 Timothy chapter 3. And he says, this know also that in the last days perilous times shall come. Now, people have been looking for the last days since the time of the apostles for sure. People have been expecting Jesus to come, and we are the imminent return of Christ. It means anytime this thing could happen. And we should still be looking for him to come, but aren't we getting closer? Can't you see the things going on around the world? And I'm looking for revival, rapture, or ruin, or a combination of all three. But in 2 Timothy chapter 3, he says this, "For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affections, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasure more than lovers of God, having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. From such turn away." Now, there's a list of words, and if those words do not describe our media, the things that are online on YouTube and X and all the different social networking sites, our political and our moral stands, our schools and our universities. Look at that list. He says men will be lovers of their own selves. Has there ever been a time people love themselves anymore? What a bunch of self-centered people. And then covetous. We are covetous. We want that new car. We want that new phone. We want that new phone cover, that new shoes, those special socks. We want our hair this. We want our muscle tone here. We want our body mass index this. And we want, oh man, we are covetous. We're boasters. And do we not have, especially in the entertainment industry, in the athletic industry, in politics, in music, boasters, people proud and arrogant, and they're going to be covetous, proud, boasters, blasphemers, people who are angry at God and speak against God and don't want anything to do with God. And it's very public, witchcraft and all kinds of shameful things. Disobedient to parents, that's everywhere, starting with 18-month-olds. Unthankful and unholy. We have got that everywhere. A lack of gratitude, a lack of holiness. When's the last time you heard a preacher preach a sermon on holiness? Oh, holiness ought to be a part of the life of a child of God. But look at verse 3. Without natural affections. Without natural affections. That means here is over in Romans chapter 1, it says men leaving the natural use of the woman, burn their lust one toward another, their vile affections. And that there are natural affections between a man and a woman, and there are unnatural affections. And without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers. Man, are we in that? You hear people being accused constantly about everything. Incontinent, no self-control, fierce, despisers. Boy, don't you see the protesters fierce? They are fierce, throwing bricks and rocks. I'll tell you what, you throw a brick at a policeman, I hope he shoots you right in the kneecap. I don't know where. I just can't even imagine. That's a deadly weapon. You can't do things like that. Nobody raised by my dad's going to throw a rock at a cop or even an authority of any kind. No way in the world. We were taught better than that. Traitors, heady, high-minded. So despisers of those that are good, where you hate people who try to do good and you speak against those who try to do good. Traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasure more than lovers of God. Man, we have got that. Those verses so typify our world today. And I want to just encourage you, let's walk different. Pick those things and be on the other side. Let's be people who are honorable and decent and pure and holy. And there's corruption in religion. There's corruption in the churches. There's anywhere you put people, there's going to be some corruption. But people of God, let's decide to live holy lives. And I mean holy in the practical sense of you got to treat your spouse right. And train your children to treat their parents right. And do your job well. 8 hours pay or 8 hours work for 8 hours pay. Do well what you do. And this list of things, it gives us the rundown of the wreck and ruin of a nation, having the form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. From such turn away. He said, there's going to be people doing this stuff. He said, turn away from them. Don't hang around them. They ought not be your friends. And this idea of separation is another thing we've lost in our country. There's people that fit the bill here. He said, don't hang around them. Don't do that. He said the same thing in the book of 1 Corinthians. He said that from such turn away. We shouldn't have close relationships with people who are doing wrong. And we ought to be so very careful about a life that's holy. And I want to challenge you. We may stumble along the way, but we ought to be holy. We ought to live holy. We ought to seek after holiness. And whether it be young or old, it ought to be our longing, our desire that we represent Christ well. And I hope that you will love him, honor him, and live for him. Thanks for joining us. Pray for the weekend. Pray for soul winning. Pray for the services all day Sunday, and that God would bless in a rich way.